Thank you, Tully. Some exaggeration there, but good evening to all from across the Yarra River here on the north side in East Melbourne. Well, I'll start with this. In the summer of 2009, Australia lost its first Jewish Australian ADF member to be killed in action since the Second World War. Private Greg Scher was an elite member of a commando regiment. He was fit, he was disciplined, he was brave, but Greg paid the ultimate price that every soldier knows they may need to pay when they join the army. Greg was killed in Afghanistan by a Taliban rocket, and this is Greg over here in the background. Greg also, probably somewhat incidentally, made a great Kiddush Hashem, both in his life and in his passing. His fellow commandos endearingly called him our little Jew. They had great respect for him. His funeral was attended by the Prime Minister, many leaders, many of the top brass of the army, and it was held at the Chevra Kadisha here in Melbourne in a traditional and moving Jewish ceremony. Another legacy of Greg's life is that a few months after his passing, due to the awareness he created of Jewish involvement in the ADF, the brass requested that the Jewish community provide a rabbi to serve Jewish members. And that's how I, neither fit nor brave, neither disciplined, found myself with a rifle thrust in my arms and a taxpayer-funded military fatigue Purim costume in my closet. Now, Tully, you ask about lessons from army service, and I only have a couple of minutes tonight, so I'll go straight to the nub of it, and it's embodied by Greg Scher. The most compelling life lesson I've learned from the army is the inestimable value of service and sacrifice. We get used to living a life that is of comforts, aspiring to wealth, living the good life, but really that's indeed a service of self. The day you walk into the army, you sign a contract that says, I choose to serve the collective over myself. I have certain values and principles that I'm going to bring to the fore. Now, these kids, when they join the army, they give up comforts for commitment, and they give up pleasure for purpose. And sometimes, sadly, they give up their life. When a soldier finishes his or her career, they'll have a ledger, and that ledger will say they gave a whole lot more than they received. And they've done this for values that are true and that are meaningful. Should not this be the aspiration of all of us, to give more than we get? And as it turns out, living this way brings us to a more fulfilling, a more profound life. Tonight is about Jewish lessons of education and relationships. From the very first Jew, Avraham Avinu, until people like Greg Scher, people have been giving up themselves, people have been serving others and sacrificing themselves. Pirkei Avos, chapter 2, succinctly embodies this principle by saying, Batel retzoncha lifnei retzonai. Bow your will before the will of the Creator. Now, this message is a little bit serious, so I will throw in a couple of anecdotes now. In my youth, I was not a great fan of school assemblies and lineups. You can imagine my considerable alarm when I joined the army and they woke us up at 5 a.m. for 12 straight hours of an activity called drill, walking around a parade ground in a lineup. Now, I can tell you that the sergeant who was running this thing spoke a dialect called drill, a dialect I did not understand. So there I was, traipsing around a parade ground, struggling to keep my feet. There is an obvious benefit to drill, and whilst I'm not sure about running drill for your children or for your students, the instinctive obedience of a lawful command is a good thing to learn. Now, Army also teaches esprit de corps, and I can see Mendy is trying to share the screen over there, but that's okay. The idea of esprit de corps is to be proud of who you are, be proud of the uniform that you wear. Now, our Yiddishkeit is much like an army. We should be proud. We should be proud of who we serve. We should be proud of our service. We're part of a special team. Wear that uniform with pride. When I went to Eretz Yisrael, I was able to service some of the IDF members that were there as well. And it was a real honor. This was in 2017 for the Beersheba commemoration. It was a real honor to be able to share pride in our tradition, pride in our homeland. Now, as my 5 allotted minutes ticks over, I should tell you one final lesson I've learned in the army. and that is punctuality. I've all but purged the great rabbinic tradition of running late to every event. Not entirely, though. I do remember showing up at a Commander Sing conference a few minutes late with a big grin on my face. I said, well, better a Rabbi Gutnick who's late than the late Rabbi Gutnick. Nobody laughed. I quickly learned the army mantra, better never than late. Anyways, all those anecdotes aside, I think the message for tonight remains the same. If your children or anybody ever asks you, what is this? What is this all about? What is our fleeting sojourn on this temporal earth really all about? Tell them that the greatest fulfillment in life is to serve something bigger than yourself. Instill and inspire purpose, passion, and mission. Tell them about Avraham Avinu and tell them about Private Greg Scher. Tell them and tell yourself. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Well, I have seen the pictures, many pictures, and you are definitely fit and brave now. And Private Greg Scher's important legacy is such a blessing and lives on for you. So thank you. And also thank you for reminding us that service and sacrifice in a defense context is one of the greatest sacrifices.